Welcome one and welcome all to Real Kool Talk. We're your hosts, coaches Lucas Hine and Kristen Cronin, and we're about to share keen observations of life by real estate people for real estate people. Let's go. Here we are. It is another Real Kool Talk podcast. And today is going to be super unique because I'm going to be sharing feedback on a really awesome webinar with my very own founder of our company, Gary Keller, and his most trusted advisors all the way at the top, Jason Abrams and Papasan. And the webinar was called Value Squared. This webinar has been hosted once already. It's been hosted again, and now it's going to be hosted 2 more times for Keller Williams Associates. So if you are listening and you're not a Keller Williams Associate and you're curious about the content from the course, please just let me know, because I can probably connect you to a member of leadership in your area that is a Keller Williams Associate and will be able to deliver some of that material to you. My guess is a lot of offices, we call them market centers, a lot of offices are hosting watch parties for these presentations. These are really valuable presentations, hence the name Value Squared. So I'm going to be going over some key points with our group today, and that's going to start in just a few minutes here. Some of these key points that I'm going to be going over are super important. The takeaway, obviously, it comes from the Stitzer-Burnett trial. Like, that's what this all stems from. And the NAR ruling changes. Just to be completely clear and transparent, that's what this course was developed for, because the biggest question that realtors are asking themselves is, what about my value, right? Now that people, right, buyers and sellers are the way in which they pay us is it's not really going to change, but it is going to change. There's all these rules in place. I went over them on the last podcast, so I'm not going to rehash them or anything. But there's a lot of big changes happening. So realtors are asking themselves a lot of questions. So the biggest things that I took away from this Value Squared webinar was fiduciary versus functionary. Okay, I'm not going to go into crazy detail right now because I'm going to get into it with a group, but here's the 3 primary points I took away. Fiduciary versus functionary. So you as a realtor, fiduciary versus functionary. Are you acting in a functionary capacity or are you acting in a fiduciary capacity? And I'm going to go into details about that. Options for cooperative compensation. This is the big rule change, is we are no longer allowed to disclose on our multiple listing service what we are providing, if we are even providing a cooperative compensation. Like, if we're the seller representatives, we're not allowed to actually advertise, do we offer a buyer's agent that cooperative compensation? That's a big rule change. So now we get to talk to our sellers differently than we were before. So cooperative compensation options. I'm going to go through 3 specific options and give a visual for what they're going to look like. And I think that's going to be really helpful when it comes to redoing our listing presentations for our sellers. And then the last and final point is this idea of offsetting your cost, right? We have costs as realtors. We cost our customers something. They are paying for us for the value we provide. Are we providing enough value, right? And what is that value? That's been the biggest question here, right? The other question I want to ask everybody is there a way to offset your value, and what might it be? And no, I'm not talking about just saying, well, I'm going to, get you more money and less time, and thereby I'm going to do. That's not tangible, right? So what are the tangible ways that you as a realtor can offset your cost to your sellers? All right, I'm really excited to get into this. So that's what's coming up. Hang tight with us for a few minutes and we're going to rock and roll. Here we go. Welcome one, welcome all to Friday Mastermind, and we have officially renamed it to Real Kool Talk. And, that's pretty exciting for us, for everybody who is on this call today. And just so everybody knows, Kristen and I will be sending out a disclaimer of some sorts to make sure that you know that when you join our call in the future, it's going to be uploaded to YouTube and podcast platforms, right? So that just brings awareness. And don't worry, we're not going to put anybody out there that doesn't actually want to be. So just keep an eye on your emails. We will make sure that that goes out. Real quick, I'm actually going to change some visual settings so I can actually see myself when I'm yakking. So hang tight for everybody real quick. If you guys couldn't tell, it is still just me. Your coach, Kristen Cronin, is still in Aruba. So she's going to be there, or actually she might be getting back today if my recollection is correct. And so starting next week, it won't just be my ugly mug on this call. I'm going to have my partner back. So don't worry, that is coming your way. Today is an exciting day because I get to talk about the Value Squared Mastermind. And I don't know how many folks that were on the call were also on Value Squared that happened last Tuesday. But if you weren't and you were not on the one done previously to this, I highly encourage everybody to sign up for the next, at least one of the next two that is happening. I'm going to put the link to the sign up in the chat box right now so that you all know where to find it. Okay. Oops, Jules, I sent that directly to you and I forgot to check that to everybody. So there you go. That is the link. Definitely attend it. It was a lot of research done by our fearless leaders at KWRI. And it's really awesome. If your market center is not hosting a watch party, make sure you talk to your leadership. Have them host a watch party for at least one of the next two that's happening. It's also a great tool to bring more people into your profit share. So just going to say that, leave it right there. We're not here to talk about profit share today. We are here to talk about my own personal key takeaways from the Value Squared. Now, I'm going to be monitoring the chat pretty closely. Anybody that has any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will always make sure that I get to them, or just simply raise your hand and you can be taken off of mute. We can go from there. Now, instead of just redoing the entire presentation, which by the way, was 3.5 hours long, they told me that the first one, even though it was slated for 4 hours, it was actually only 2.5. They went a little longer this time, which means they gave us more value. It's not actually a Zoom, it's a webinar. So I was able, you not really needing to be on camera and you can get up and go to the bathroom and all the things. So overall, a ton of value. I'm going to be going over some very brief key takeaways. I'm going to be very encouraging right now for anybody that did take the Value Squared webinar, or even those who did not take it yet. Please give me your feedback. I want to hear what you took away from it. If I missed anything that was super important, I'm going to be going over 3 specific takeaways that I learned from it. So here we go. Without further ado, let's go. You guys know me. I love questions rather than statements. So I wrote down some questions to ponder right up front, right? And this is a question for all realtors out there that are pondering the value that they bring their customers. What do you need help with most? Is it the mechanics of your presentation, or is it the mindset around your value? Okay, mechanics or mindset? Sure, those two things are intertwined a lot, right? We know that to be true. Is it skill set? Is it tools? Is it systems? Like all those mechanics, or is it mindset, i.e., your attitude toward this whole thing, right? Katie Hawkins said both. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's start with the mindset. Let's get to the mechanics. Chances are your mechanics have already been pretty darn good, but we're going to go through a couple of points to really take in that we should always be auditing your process. Okay. I asked this question last time and I've asked it 100 times since this whole thing came out. Ask yourself this question. Would you pay for your service? Would you pay for yourself? And if the answer is yes, awesome. Great. Go document it. If it's not already documented, go document it. If it's no, great. Go document it. Would you pay for your service? Whether the answer to your question is yes or no, go document it. And then ask yourself, how do you become invaluable and irreplaceable? Because I got to tell you this, there's going to be a lot of replaceable agents that come out of the other end of this. Now, I know it's not going to be any of you that are on this call and that are going to be listening to the replay, right? Are you irreplaceable right now? And if you're not, how do you become so invaluable that you become irreplaceable? A really great coach on the call actually asked this question. I thought it was hilarious because it refers to cereal boxes. It's hard to see the label from inside the box. Guys, that's another way of saying it. You can't see the forest from the trees. So look at your menu of services and audit them at all times. Okay, look at your menu of services and audit them. Okay, would you pay for your service? If it's yes, if it's no, it doesn't matter. Go document the whole process and ask yourself, how do you become invaluable and irreplaceable? Look at it from a 30-foot view and ask other people to do that too. Ask your team leader, ask your coach, ask your, the MCA, for God's sake. Guys, the MCA has always been the real MVP of our market centers. The MCA can look at things from a completely different perspective than a salesperson. That MCA looks at things more like a consumer than any one of us does. So ask for feedback. Okay, do this with both your buyers and your sellers, your seller presentations, your buyer presentations, and then redocument them weekly, monthly, quarterly. This is the time to take market share. Okay, I've been telling my clients this the entire week. There are two huge opportunities. One, everyone's talking about. Two, I've not really heard many people talk about. And so I'm talking about it. The biggest opportunity for you all, top 20, top 10, top 5, top 1 percenters, is to take market share. That's the biggest opportunity. The second biggest opportunity, the one that I see, guys, again, this is my expressed and written opinion. That is it. Right? These represent my observations. This is my opinion. The second biggest opportunity, since every one of you all who is either my client or Kristen's client often talks about time, getting more time back in your day, the time that things and people are taking up from you. The second biggest opportunity is who we now get to say no to. I'm going to say that again. The second biggest opportunity after taking market share is who we now get to say no to. Okay, this doesn't just go for buyers. It also goes for sellers and investors too. Guys, there's a triad of words that we say when it comes to qualifying whether a buyer or a seller comes into our world and we service them. They must be ready, they must be willing, and they must be able. Otherwise, they're not a client, they're a prospect. They must be ready, they must be willing, and they must be able. That last one is the one that changes now. Who you get to say no to before was people who were not able. Now, if we look at this from a lending standpoint, it's like the 3 or the 4 C's of qualifications, right? Credit, capacity, whatever it was, right? Capacity is their ability to be able to pay for the closing costs. Well, guess what? You might be one of those closing costs now. And now we get the opportunity to say, okay, Mr. Buyer, we still have to save up some money, which, by the way, is not just on you all when it comes to helping buyers. That's also on your lender. Okay, for mortgage buyers, specifically for mortgage buyers. Now, I'm going to leave the VA buyer out of this conversation, guys, because that is a whole other topic of conversation. In fact, that's like 3 podcasts in a row, and we're not going to go there today, right? Because they're still working out the legality, right? I don't know if you guys share this opinion with me. I really hope this goes through. I hope it does not go, like, I hope the appeal process doesn't work. I hope this goes through. If it doesn't go through, what else can they slam on us? What else can they do? They're not going to reverse this. There's just no way. There's too much cause. Gary Keller said it on our coaches mastermind yesterday. He said it 3 days ago when he was on the Value Squared. They had a reason to do this, and they did it. That's why they settled, right? So if this doesn't go through, if it doesn't pass through the appeals process, something worse is going to happen. And I want this to go through so we can get on with business, right? So would you pay for your service? Great. Document it. Ask how you become invaluable, irreplaceable. Continue to audit that process week after week. Market share, saying no. Okay. How does this change what a qualified buyer is? We already went through this. Ready, willing, and able. Value you might offer might look a little different now. Finding a house that offers cooperative compensation. Negotiating with that listing agent. Your skills of negotiating as a buyer's agent are more important than ever. I've heard people say this is the time to practice, practice, practice. Get role play partners. Sign up for Role Play Rumble. Sign up for Bold, for God's sake. Get yourself in the Bold room, guys. A lot of people are having Bold come to their areas and they're not signing up. Get your butts in the Bold room. This is another opinion that nobody else is talking about. And guys, this is pure speculation. I'm allowed to say that. This is pure speculation. How less valuable now are door openers going to be? We all know who they are. They don't offer value to their buyers. They just simply open the door. How less valuable are, drumroll, online brokerages going to be? If anybody on this call, or anyone's listening, has experience with getting online leads from that company that rhymes with pillow or that company that rhymes with loans.com, right? All of those companies are going to have a real hard time. We sold them as realtors. We sold them our information way back in the day, and now they're selling it back to us. Great. We're already past that. That's all the thing, right? But I don't know if anybody has gotten calls recently from that company that rhymes with pillow. They want you to just meet the customer at the house and open the door. Well, now, guess what? Sorry, Mr. Pillow Man. I have to meet with this person and they have to sign an agency agreement now before I'm just going to go open the door. I'm not a door opener. What are those companies going to do? What are those multinational conglomerates going to do now that the relationship has won? That's why I really hope this thing goes through. I love this, guys. There's so much opportunity. I'm frothing at the mouth. This is amazing opportunity to go through. So how less valuable are those going to be? Agents that are buying leads are not going to be on the winning end unless they become relationship-based now. I've had a lot of conversations with some clients that are still in the process of buying leads. This whole week, we've been talking about, okay, guess what? We got to get our butts out of this. Mindy in the chat says, I've been saying for a year that I am not a door opener. Girl, you are not a door opener. I've known you for as long as you have been coaching with my partner, Kristen, and you are not a door opener. You have value. You have value. Okay. That was my ramble. That was my banter, right? Those were not the 3 points that I was going to go over. That was just my banter. Okay. So here's the 3 points that I'm going to go over. I'm going to give a visual. Those that are going to be listening to this later on audio only, the visual aids will be part of the show notes. Okay. So time to screen share. Here we go. Fiduciary versus functionary. Guys, I apologize for how blurry and fuzzy this looks. My bad. Okay, I was taking screenshots during the Value Squared. It was just what I was able to do. Please take yourself a screenshot. And if this is not enough for you to get yourself into the Value Squared mastermind, I don't know what's going to be. Fiduciary versus functionary. A functionary is someone who simply does tasks for a client, aka opens doors. Okay, we're not those people. I know that to be true. Okay, a fiduciary, as it says it here, is one who not only does the tasks of the job, but is also in a high trust relationship with their client. They feel totally responsible for the outcome. They put their clients' interest above their own and treat all client information as confidential. Man, okay, that speaks volumes to me. I don't know how many of my own clients are on this call, but if you are here and you are listening, you've probably heard me say this a lot. Okay. The difference between a good coach and a great coach is a good coach cares about your goals. And I didn't make this up. Okay. This was Tony DeSello that said this on stage last year at Mega Camp. A great coach is one who cares more about your goals than you do. Okay. So what does that say for you guys helping your clients? Okay. They put their client's interest above their own and treat all client information as confidential, right? That first part of that sentence, they put their client's interest above their own. So caring more about your client's goals of moving than they might even do, than they might even care. We all have to match their motivation. Yes. And at the same time, are we showing that we care enough? Okay. The high trust relationship obviously takes time to establish, but we have to present that value up front, right? Going on to the next slide here presents other perspectives, functionary versus fiduciary. You guys can see for yourselves 1 through 8, right? A functionary has a shallow relationship, AKA door opener. Fiduciary has a deep relationship. Functionary assumes the least responsibility. Fiduciary accepts most responsibility. And I would take that as a step further, exercises extreme ownership. Functionary just reports data and information. Think about the person that just shows up on the doorstep and simply hands somebody a CMA. Fiduciary interprets and advises data and information, right? We don't make the market, we simply interpret it, right? Onward, right? Reacts and requests while fiduciary anticipates needs. That takes heavy, deep listening skills to anticipate needs. A functionary tells and sells. Fuduciary educates and guides. Did I miss one? Focus on tasks versus focuses on outcomes. Number 7, a functionary is replaceable. We already talked about how do you become irreplaceable. A fiduciary is irreplaceable. Functionary is minimally paid. Fiduciary is highly paid. There is this other company that starts with a color and ends with a part of a dolphin. Okay, you guys can figure that out. They hire people and pay them minimal, in my eyes today, minimum salaries. And what do? They go open doors. That's a functionary. You know, bless their hearts. I love that they love that model. I love that their people love their jobs. And yet you can't deny that is functionary. Fiduciary versus functionary. Very first point that I took away, right? Not the very first. The top 3 points that I took away. Fiduciary versus functionary. So when you're going through your presentations, ask yourself, how are you acting as a fiduciary to your clients? Okay, next point. Cooperative compensation options. Last week, I made a very bold statement that we need to be very careful about how we present cooperative compensation options to our sellers. It's really important that we mind all fair housing laws. Exposure is a tricky thing. Okay, so make sure all the correspondence you are having with your sellers, you are doing so in a highly a high capacity to keep in mind what fair housing laws actually are. Right. I took these 3 slides from the Value Squared Masterminds as things that I can just put right into my presentation, and I can ask my client to check a box. Okay. The 3 options for offering cooperative compensation options for our sellers. The first one is to authorize and offer it. Now we know we can't display it, but we can still offer it. Right, guys? We can still offer it. That's what we're allowed to do. That's been made very clear to us. We can authorize to offer it, which means I, the seller, want to generate the widest pool of buyers that bring me the best price and terms with the least amount of hassle. I accept the potential risk that I could be offering more compensation than the buyer has agreed to pay, and the buyer's agent because I want to attract the largest pool of buyers. It's estimated as much as 40% of the market would be challenged to pay for the buyer's agent out of pocket. Many first-time home buyers and move-up buyers would be challenged. Anyone using a VA loan would be currently denied that option. Says it pretty clear, right? Guys, this is straight from KWRI. This is beautiful. Go ahead and feel free to screenshot this if you're watching, right? Cooperative compensation options. Number one, my favorite, authorized to offer it. 40% is a big number. And if your client says, oh, take me through the math, how would it actually earn me more money? Well, let's see. 40% of the buyer pool, 40% higher, right? You could say, okay, we've opened up. And guys, this conversation is so familiar, given my personal experience calling for sale by owners. This conversation is so familiar, right? Mr. Seller, I can bring my buyer to your house, but I cannot promise that my buyer is going to pay you the most money. Would you like to hear more? Great. Let's meet this time or that time, right? Onward. This conversation is so familiar. And those out there that have experience calling for sale by owners, boy, you're gonna know the right things to say already. Okay. All right. Number two, keep it on moving. Don't authorize it, but be willing to consider it in an offer. Okay. Which means you as the buyer's agent, if you see that there's no clear offer for cooperative compensation, which I think is probably going to be pretty common, which lends back to our negotiation skills as a buyer's agent. It's going to be pretty common that the listing agents just say, you know, we're open. I'm going to present all offers as written. And if you have in there that what your commission actually is in offers, as long as that is legal in your area, your MLS, your board, your state, right? The listing agent is going to present it as it's written to their client, right? And what highly functional listing agents are going to do is they're going to make sure that their client knows the net of all of the offers coming in. Okay, I got a bunch of chats coming through with people's autopilots. Slides are on KW Connect. Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate that, man. Slides are on KW Connect, so you don't have to worry about reading my very blurry screenshots here. So, second option, don't authorize it, but be willing to consider it an offer. Guys, those value slides are incredibly important. I'm not sharing everything there because just for sake of time, but boy, those slides were important. Boy, those slides are important. Okay. Don't authorize it, but be willing to consider it an offer. I'm willing to keep my options open to paying it or not. I accept the potential risk of exposing my property to a smaller pool of buyers because some buyers who need it may not ask if it's available and assume it's not. Additionally, I accept the potential risks if a buyer doesn't have representation of encountering more hassles and more delays. Guys, I just had an epiphany. I think the agents that are going into their sellers saying, I will sell your house for 3% or 2.5% or 2%, and I'm not going to offer anything to the buyer's agents. I think those agents are in trouble because they are putting their sellers at risk to not earn as much as they could. Boy, when you go in a competing listing presentation, imagine going in with that. Oh, so listing agent A said that they wouldn't offer cooperative compensation or discouraged you to go through that. Here's what concerns me about that, and then go in. Right? Okay, Allie Sprung, do you have a spreadsheet on how do people calculate their net? Of course I do. Everybody should, right? And I can tell you, Allie, that is not the best way to do it. Okay? This was actually in the Value Squared presentation 3 days ago. Okay, and please go through this with your coach this week. The best way to do it is the same way that we as coaches engage you in your economic models. We involve you in the math. When you have a piece of paper and a pen and a 4-function calculator, and the client can see you going through that math to calculate their seller net, they know they're part of that process. So yes, we have all sorts of spreadsheets galore. A lot of the costs are going to be state and local specific. I encourage you to know your seller's costs and to do the math yourself with them. Involve your clients in the math. Okay, last one. Don't authorize it and don't consider it. I am unwilling to pay it. I accept the potential risk of exposing my property to a smaller pool of buyers because a buyer who needs it may not make an offer. Additionally, I accept the potential risks. If a buyer doesn't have representation, I have more hassles for some interested buyers and more delays. This does so much for dual agency, especially in my state. The great state of New York has very strict agency laws, especially when it comes to disclosure. This does a lot for that. I won't get into the details of that for risk of saying something that's out of my legal realm. So there you have it. I would not mess around. I would put these options right into your listing presentation. Say, hey, look, we've gone through this a lot. I've calculated your seller net. I really think that this last disclosure is going to be a really important one. And just so you know, the seller net that I've calculated is based off of option 1. If you want me to calculate the seller net based off of options 2 or 3, please let me know. But just know that the best case scenario for the listing price might be less. It would be irresponsible of me to calculate it the same way. It would be irresponsible of me. I would not be acting as your fiduciary, because as your fiduciary, I need to be the most trustworthy person on your side through this whole transaction. Okay. Excuse me. My last takeaway was partially from Value Squared, partially from the coaches mastermind that I was on yesterday with Gary, Jay, and Jason, and mostly from a mastermind that was also for the MAPS coaches that I had on Tuesday night. Okay. This idea of offsetting cost. There's this idea out there of offsetting cost. If anyone has ever been in market center leadership before, they know that a big part of the growth tool, the growth strategy of getting people to join Keller Williams is the offset of profit share. Profit share offsets the costs of being at Keller Williams. That's why we have a 100% model, right? So this idea of offsetting costs, this is what I want you guys to take away from this. This is what's not being explicitly trained in those masterminds. How can you, as a listing agent, be so valuable that by using you versus any other agent out there, you can prove to your client that they can offset the cost of being with you? How can you do it? Right? And I'm sure that many of you are in, like I said, feel free. If you guys have ideas, pop them in the chat, raise your hand, come off mute, do whatever you need to do, right? I want to hear what you think. And probably what's going through a lot of your minds right now is, well, I can prove to them through my track record that by choosing me, they're going to get X amount more than the list price. Therefore, if they use somebody else, great. I want to hire you because I bet you are just a badass at the listing presentation. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's intangible. What are some tangible ways that you can offset your cost, right? What are some tangible ways that you can offset your cost? Guys, for sake of not dropping too many silences, I'm going to give you a few of them. Okay. I'm actually going to give you the way. Okay. And there was a story that another coach told me about a client that they teach out or that they coach out of California, right? We all know the price points in California, right? And we all know the commissions that agents earn in California too. Imagine offsetting a $120,000 commission. Well, how do you do that? One word: vendors. All of them. Every single one of them. From the lender to the gardener to the mover. If you have enough business and you have such an exclusive relationship with that vendor, do you think that every single one of them might be willing to offer all of your clients 10% discounts? So how many 10% discounts would it take to completely offset your cost? We all know how expensive movers are. I actually experimented with this. There's a mover in my area, and I'm not going to name names, right? But they're the only ones who I trust moving my stuff because my wife is a classical musician. We have a organ that goes into our house, and we have a grand piano that goes into our house. They are the self-proclaimed piano movers of Rochester, New York. I would never trust anybody else with moving my stuff. Called them up, experimented with it. They were like, absolutely. They're ready for scale too, by the way. So are your partners, when I say your partners, your team members, aka your vendors, your title rep, your lender, the landscapers, the movers, the flooring, the carpet people, the siding people, the gutter people, everybody that is involved, not just in the transaction, right? There's going to be some weird ones like insurance reps. Discounts are going to be a little weird with that, right? Probably not so much since they already offer bundle discounts, but think about the all of your vendors and which ones are independently owned, right, and are ready for growth and scale. If you can show, if you can prove that every one of those vendors is going to be a service that your client needs by way of their move, and you can show the money that you're going to be saving them by using you, because this would be an exclusive. Hey, I used the Bruce and Tammy Young's team, so therefore I know I can get this discount, right? Just start letting the wheels turn, guys. What could you do? You could work these things out with your vendors. You could put them on a sheet of paper. You could create a discount card, for God's sake. Ricky Agent from Charleston, South Carolina. Holla, Charleston, South Carolina. Find out and compare who your passengers are versus your partners. Amen. We don't got time for passengers. We're professionals. This is a business. We are professionals in this. We don't have time for passengers. We only have time for partners. Lisa Scola says, oh, I love this, right? Lisa Scola says, I'm worth 6 to 8% on commission. Seller presentation now has a menu of items. Gotta love that menu of services, right? Definitely hit the value squared slides because it goes through the idea of bundling and unbundling services. Extremely valuable information, okay? Has a menu of items that she offers, Lisa says, and they get to choose what they would like from you. All levels, a co-op fee is included. I love that. I absolutely love that. Remember the rule of disclosure. We have to disclose that everything's negotiable now, right? It always was. We just now have to disclose it, right? I don't know about you all. I always just disclosed it. I say, hey, look, commission's negotiable. Here's my fee. Here's what you're getting with it. Here's the value that you get. Where do you want to sign? Right? I never got people arguing with it. They knew what they were getting when they signed the listing agreement with me. So can you, back to the idea of offsetting cost, can you put enough partner vendors on your list to show your sellers, hey, these discounts are exclusive to me? I've done a simple calculation, a generalization of what all these people's services are. And look, just by 5 or 10%, you're saving this much money on money that you're already going to have to spend because you're a homeowner, okay, on maintenance costs and improvement costs, maintenance and improvement, okay? You're already going to be saving this much money by using me. You're already offsetting me, right? You're getting all this value for what you're going to be paying me, and it's going to be offset. Mindy Doppler, thank you for this information about Massachusetts. Massachusetts exclusive listing agreement has a place where we must disclose how much buyer compensation goes into the buyer agent and facilitators. Thank you for that. I love the idea of full disclosure. I don't like this idea that, you know, that the public has been fed this BS that somehow we've been swindling people. It couldn't be further from the truth. Could there have been more transparency? Yeah, absolutely. That's why this came to light, right? But guess what? We get to win now. We have more opportunity than ever before to win. Okay. So I'm going to pause real quick my monologue, and I'm going to ask, does anyone have anything that they want to add that has not been added in the chat already? I'd love to hear from you. This is a mastermind after all. So please come off mute and share with me your feedback. Don't make me call on somebody. I will. Oh,
Hi,
hi,
it's
Barbara.
Barbara.
What you got?
Hi, it's Barbara from Miami. How are
What's
you?
up?
I
Hey,
just I just think you're absolutely right. We have an opportunity to potentially charge a lot more than we used to because the good people are going to be separated from the bad, no questions.
Barbara,
The good agents are definitely going to be separated. Yeah.
I really couldn't agree more. I really could not agree more. There's so much opportunity before than there was before to charge what we are worth, right?
Yeah,
Us as
and we
fiduciaries.
definitely. Yeah, and I think we control the rhetoric. I think everybody thinks, oh, real estate agents are crumbling, and the media is putting it out there as if, oh, wow, look at this, you don't have to pay them 6% anymore. Yeah, you're right. You might have to pay them 10% now.
Amen. Oh, 10% is a really sexy commission rate. I love that. Okay, who else has some feedback on my babble, on my banter? All right, who's looking forward to Kristen being back next week? I sure am. I definitely am. So
Me too.
guys, next week is going to be, I'm going to talk to Kristen. I don't know the exact topic of next week's conversation. It could be us. And I think we have a few more interviewees to line up too. You guys, if the folks that were on here were also on the interview with Will Van Wickle, we're going to be having more really valuable content coming from leading agents in this industry, right? So we have a lot of good people that are going to be on our list. It's just about lining up the stars to make sure that they can come at the right time. So if no one has any other feedback or commentary, please know this. You are the winners in this. I believe that. Your coach Kristen believes that. Your leadership believes that. You have to believe that. Work on your mindset, work on the mechanics of this business. You're going to end up being a winner. Okay, Mindy, you got one more thing.
Well, I don't know if I had shared this, but my market center, our broker, had already created a form where it addresses compensation that we submit with an offer. And one box says that we will accept what they have in the MLS, and it has to state what that percent is. And then there's another box that checks off that says what our agreement is with our client, and we put in that percent and says that that is what we are anticipating. And we put that in with the offer so that they know that we're either going to ask for it back in a seller concession or through whatever means, we dictate. I met with a buyer that was referred to me 2 weeks ago tomorrow, and I had already printed out the compensation slides from the Value Squared because I took that first class, and so I got the slides really right away. And she said to me, last night I heard something that there was some kind of a lawsuit and compensation, what's up with that? And because I had my presentation with me, I just flipped to those sides and I said, oh, here. And she looked at it, looked at it and said, okay, great. We submitted an offer and it got accepted. And I said to her, do you want us to, when I filled out that form, I said, look, this is our agreement. This is what they're paying. Do you want me to go after? She goes, no, I don't want to lose this deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want people to know, I have been doing gap commissions since I got into the business almost 8 years ago. So to me, this is like nothing new. It's, getting back to the beginning of the conversation, it's what we tell ourselves here. And yet I'm one of the only 200 agents in my market center that ever had buyer sign an exclusive buyer agency agreement and ever asked for more than what the MLS was paying anyway.
Powerful stuff, Mindy. Thank you for that. And you brought up another really great point. Guys, be ready for your local boards to come out with some new disclosure forms. Just be ready, right? Be ready for
Ours
your
did, but
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of local boards are going to be like, all right, here's our new disclosure forms. These are new required disclosures as a local member of this board. Right. Anytime there's a change, right? I mean, it's been this way in my market for as long as I can remember, right? I don't remember when it actually became official, but this whole idea of escalation clauses, right? This whole idea of putting an escalation clause into your offer, right? To help protect the buyer from paying too much instead of highest and best. Our local board now has a disclosure for that. So anything that is hyper local and national, the board's going to have a disclosure for that. So just be ready for that to come too. That might actually make things a little bit easier on us too. Okay, anybody else? All right, you guys. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask you, you were saying you were going to tell us several ways that we, tangible ways that we could offset our costs. And then we went to vendors and we talked about some other things. And I was just wondering if there were any other points.
Those are the tangible ways. How can you
That's all.
tangibly,
Okay. All right.
how can you
Okay.
tangibly seek to offset your cost? Because intangibly would be an idea, right?
Yes,
This
of course. I
idea
understand.
that, oh, well, by using me, you're going to get a higher offer. And hey, look at my stats and here's why. That's intangible,
Right.
right? I
Right,
can't
of course.
actually see
Okay.
the cost savings.
No, I understand. I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Great job. Thank you for being on this call. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Keep killing it. Go be your best selves. See ya. And that is a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Real Kool Talk. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. And please leave us a rating and review. We want to hear your feedback as we thrive on feedback. It is always the breakfast of champions. And now for the legal stuff. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the hosts and the guests represent those of the hosts and the guests, and not Keller Williams Realty International, its affiliates, MAPS Coaching, or its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. That's all, folks. See ya.